For more than a decade, bees around the world have been dying in record numbers.
I have seen videos just like that for years, and I've always wondered if I could do something about it. I've thought about getting into beekeeping numerous times, and every time I do research into it, I would just see videos like that, or people talking about their hives got infected with this virus and they all died, or they had to kill their hive because they got aggressive, or the hive didn't survive the winter because it was too cold. And I live in Western Pennsylvania. It gets pretty cold here over the winters, so I always wondered, could I keep bees alive? Would they die out over the winter? What could I do? And it's always scared me away from getting into beekeeping. But not anymore. The last time I saw one of these videos, I started doing some research and I found a company called Primal Bee. I started looking into their product to see, what makes this hive different and why could this change the game for me? And so I started looking into it, and this hive looks like no beehive I've ever seen before. It's taller. It is bright white. It's made out of EPS, or expanded polystyrene, which is like the stuff that coolers are made out of, but a bit denser. And it has R50 insulation. That is better than the insulation of my house. So at first glance, I was like, cool. This could help my bees survive better over the winter. It would allow me to take more honey and make sure that they have a little bit more later in the season for when, they need to use that honey to survive over the winter. So I started doing more research, and they not only make their hive out of a different building material, but it has a different shaped frame. So their frames are trapezoids, and as I read into it, they did that to more naturally mimic the shape of a beehive in the wild. Beehives are traditionally, wild beehives that is, are in old hollowed out tree trunks, trees that have rotted out of the middle and they can build their comb inside the tree trunks, or trees that have fallen over and they can build their comb in the hollowed out trunk. So they've designed this hive to more naturally mimic that. And because of how it's designed, you can have honey and brood that they lay down in the actual nest box instead of just relying on all the honey in the supers. So I thought those were some really cool features that I'd never seen in a hive before. So I reached out to Primal Bee and asked if they'd want to sponsor some videos of me getting into beekeeping, and God bless them, they said yes, and they took a shot on me. Over the next 12 months, you're going to see a series of videos about my journey into beekeeping. Primal Bee sent me the hive, but they just want me to be honest with my feedback on the hive. I'm going to set it up in my garage. You might be asking why I'm setting it up in my garage. Well, here's me outside. Hey y'all, just jumping in for a minute. You might be wondering why I am building my beehive in the garage. This is why. It was 65 degrees yesterday. It is 33 right now, and we've already gotten like 2 inches of snow. That's just Western Pennsylvania for you. So, gonna finish building it in the garage today, let the glue dry up, and then I will install it at the farm. And then next month, our video is gonna be putting the bees in their home. So, follow along for that. Back to the build video. So let's get the hive. Okay, so a lot of packaging here. I am not going to show you me tearing all of this out of the box. There's a lot of stuff here. This stack is almost as tall as I am. So what we have here in this package, I believe this is the base frame. Oh yeah. We love a company that uses 3D printing. I'm also a 3D printing nerd, so maybe eventually someone will sponsor me. I can do a video on some 3D printers, or if I can get mine fixed, I'll do something like that too. These are entryway reducers. You'll need these later, but you don't need them right now, so set them aside. Little booklet. Welcome to Primal Bee, the new standard hive. These are plastic foundations. This thing. They're a rhombus or trapezoid, whatever shape I should have remembered from like 7th grade geometry. But these are plastic and they are uncoated. So once I get this assembled, I will wax these. Really easy way to do that is just like a paint roller, like one of the little small ones. Put some beeswax in a tiny little pot and melt it. Dip your wax roller in, or your paint roller, and just run that over this. Or you could even use a paintbrush and just do a light coat. You don't need a lot. You just want a little bit of wax to help them get used to this, because plastic is not a natural substance. But if you cover it in beeswax, they're going to be very used to it and no problem at all. We're opening up the hive. I believe, yes. So, this comes ratchet strapped in place for safety while transporting. The easiest way to take this out of here is just cut this box off. Find where it's held together, get rid of it, do not try to lift this out. If you open it right side up, then it will just be standing on the feet. So, look at the label and open it the right way up. Here is your hive. Now, this comes with just this like tension ratchet strap. If you've ever used a ratchet strap before, it is just one of the very simple little tension keys. You just push, pull the strap through. That helps with transport. It helps keeping this thing together if it gets windy. And especially, this is how tall it is without the super on top. As you add the super, you're going to add another couple feet, or a foot-ish. So you're definitely going to want this. The strap is long enough to accommodate that super, so no problem at all. Let's get into this thing. Now, the hive comes fully assembled. It did come with a few dings and dangs. It's probably the only downside of this thing being foam. But also, if you are getting a beehive, you're going to leave it outside for years. I don't think a few dings and dangs should scare you. It's going to get rained on, snowed on. Whoa! Now, this is so much heavier than you think it would be. Like, this box is relatively heavy in itself, like the whole thing. But, like, even just this lid, it's solid. So, that speaks a lot to the build quality, that this thing is sturdy. On here, you have a feeder hole. So this plug comes out. Hole through there, you can put a bee feeder in here. So if you are trying to give your bees extra food before the winter, this is how you would do so. And the frames. So these are their crazy frames. So a traditional Langstroth frame is square. I'll put a little picture over here as well. But they're square or rectangular. Listen, I wasn't very good at geometry, okay? That's why I'm a nurse. Not my thing. Rectangular frames, and they're only about this deep. So one of these hives has a foam insert. I'm going to have to look into why. I don't know if it's extra insulation for the one wall or just a gap filler. I don't really know, but we'll check back later. And if I figure it out, I'll pop in here. Hey, cutting in for a minute. This thing I was talking about earlier is actually a follower board. So what it does is it actually allows you to shrink the number of frames you have in your hive. So if you're starting with a smaller nucleus colony or a package of bees like I am, you can let your new queen actually fill out some of the frames more in their entirety before you let her expand to everything. So that's included in this as well. That's what it's for. Decide whether you want to use it or not, but just wanted to throw that in here. But while I have these out and exposed, I'm going to put my bases in. So there's little posts right here and holes that line up over one another the whole way around. They just pop over, and then there are little tabs right here and right here, the whole way around essentially, that you need to be able to see this on both sides, which means it's locked in. But yeah, so super easy. You just pop that in, and boom, it's in there. We will wax these later. I want to get this all assembled first, and then I'll wax them after the fact. But we're going to get all those bad boys in there, and I'll be back in a minute. Now, I believe this honey super comes with quite a few pieces. We're going to find out for sure, but I do know there is a little bit of assembly required. At least in the video I watched, there was some assembly required. It's not nearly that difficult. It's just a little bit of work. Ah, yes. So, something I forgot about. In this box with your super comes this little mesh and a Varroa board. So, Varroa mites, we talked a little bit about them earlier, are these little mites. This Varroa board, I believe, just allows you to capture, like they'll die and land on here. And that helps you to track how many Varroa you have in your hive. More Varroa are bad, ultimately. I know they happen. There are ways to treat them. That's probably going to happen later in a video, because once I see some Varroa, I'm going to freak out and want to figure out how to treat them. You have your honey super parts. There are a lot of parts in here. So I was like, man, there's a lot of sides to this. Each one of these forms a medium super. They are not hard to put together. There are little foam posts that go in these foam holes. Walls stick on the sides, and then the other side presses on, makes a little box. They do recommend using some glue. I read it on the internet, so this must be true. Clear Gorilla Glue is good for this. This very specifically says that it is good for foam. Now, don't be confused by the part that says no foam. That means the glue doesn't foam. This means it can bond foam. So, Clear Gorilla Glue, good putting the honey supers together. So, the honey supers come in 6 pieces. They come in, you get 2 of these. So these are your frame spacers, so that all your frames stay nice and spaced out. You get 2 sideboards and 2 front boards. So front boards are easy to know. Primal bee, right on there. You want to keep this upright. There is a small groove. I'll cut close here, so you can kind of see it right here, that these like are dominoed out. So where these are dominoed out is where you actually take these and they just press in here. I made the choice of pressing a bunch in, but they press in just like that. So you press them in there, no need to glue or anything like that. They just press fit in. Where you do need to glue is these holes right here. And then on the ends of these posts and around right here. So, assembly, I think this is the easiest way. Lay this down. You want to make sure the handle is obviously out, so it's useful to you. Press in. Make sure you have the right way, so your handles are actually facing up. Press in. And then this one goes on top. Now, you might hear me say I just talked about glue. You should absolutely press fit these together, dry fit, just to make sure they fit right. Once you know for a fact that they dry fit right, take them apart and do it over with the glue. Painter's tape is good because it shouldn't actually damage the foam. It's not that strong. It's just a little bit of extra motivation to keep it from falling apart. So, painter's tape. Make sure that you don't have any glue creeping out of your corners. And then just go ahead and let this sit for, mine takes 2 hours to set up. 24, it's fully cured. So let it set up and then you can finish building the rest of your hive. So this is it. The hive is fully built. I still have the tape on just because I'm letting that glue set. I have this in what is called the initial configuration. I'll throw it up over here. What it is this allows you to start your hive small with a package of bees or a nucleus hive. I am starting with a package of bees, so that's about 3 pounds of bees. I have all 8 frames in the hive. On the 3rd frame in, I have the follower board. That way, I'm going to restrict my queen and bees to the first 5 frames to allow them to grow a little bit stronger before I take that follower board out and let them spread to the other ones. This is just going to help her strengthen up and build her colony before they expand upwards. On next, I have the feeder board. So it is just the one with a hole in it. That hole is going to let me put a feeder on top so that, once I install the bees, if all the flowers aren't in bloom yet, they will have a sugar water, or some companies sell different types of super feeds, if you will, that help the bees start just getting quick food access and building up their strength. On top of that, we are putting a frameless super. So an empty super, that just allows us to build a little bit of height inside to allow room for that feeder, and then your top board on top. That is what they call their initial configuration. Obviously, you take that strap and you strap it around. I am not going to strap it until I get the wooden base made. The way they recommend it is putting a tarp down just to keep grass from growing up and blocking, keeping other bugs and insects out. Putting a little bit of a wooden base underneath. I'm just going to put some 4x4s on little blocks to lift it up a little bit more. That helps get airflow under the hive, allows for some extra airflow, keeps everything dry. Bees do not like to be moist inside their hives. So my bees come April 11th, which I am so excited about. I feel really bad for the post office worker who is going to receive a box of 3 pounds of live bees. That's probably terrifying. I've never bought bees before, but I'm sure having like 10 to 20,000 bees in a box just buzzing in the post office probably terrifies the little old ladies that work down there, unless they're beekeepers. Then I will take that, drive it back up to my parents', which is where I am keeping this hive. So this hive is going to be on my parents' farm. At the farm, there is knotweed, there are mountain laurels, rhododendrons, a lot of wildflowers in the field, a lot of things that I think are going to be really cool to get a very unique honey profile. Knotweed honey is really big right now. It's very dark. Wildflower honey is generally pretty light, so I think it'll be nice to kind of have that mix in here. So, going to get that set up then, and I'll see you next month when I install the bees. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below in the comments. I would love to hear them, hear your feedback. If you were an experienced beekeeper, let me know what you think of Primal Hive. Any tips and tricks, if you want to throw them down below. I really appreciate you joining me along for this journey. I think it is going to be so much fun. Thank you very much. Please drop a like and subscribe down below. The link to Primal Hive, if you want to find more, is in the description at the very top. Go check them out. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next month.